speaking of Tony Khan and that, they announced, everybody's speculating about their whole TV deal and all of that. And of course, everybody's TV business execs on Twitter and all that. But,
exactly.
but when it boils down to things, I look at things like when you boil it down, right? Like they put their PLEs, pay-per-views, whatever you want to call it. They did some deal with Triller. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Triller. You probably are. You're smarter in this field than I am. They're not doing too hot, right? Like, what is that about? How do you view that? Is that a good move on Tony Khan's behalf, like taking the pay-per-views and that back catalog and putting it over on Triller? Because I think, didn't they stop doing fights and stuff like that too? I'm pretty sure they're in the red big time right now. Bunch of celebrities pulled out of that. So, yeah, do you have any insight on that?
Well, I do some, yeah. So only some I can share. But so good friend of mine, actually, one of my old bosses at the UFC, Eric Winter, is I believe taking over Triller, and he'll write the ship. Yeah, I mean, Triller's got really good technology. I mean, I much prefer. I always feel pretty confident when I pay my money on the pay-per-view on Triller that it's, Fight TV, as I always call it. That was the old brand of it. But it's not going to fall on its arse, you can't say that about Bleacher Report, wherever the heck that platform was on. It was always falling down. You can't even say that about ESPN Plus, which is absolute dog of the platform. Terrible, inexcusably bad. Like, I would say like once out of every 2 pay-per-views, on UFC, I personally experience a problem. And you go online, and obviously Twitter's not real life, but you see so many people saying the same things, like it's choppy, the audio was 30 seconds behind the action, or it's just crap. It's absolute. Fight is not that fight. I've never had a problem. I've never seen people have a major problem with Triller. So, yeah, I mean, I think actually that's a smart move going there. I mean, what he should do is, and I don't also believe you can get AEW pay-per-views via YouTube now as well. I mean, that's been a thing for a little while.
I think that is a thing. And is that a good move? Like, I know you talked with Eric Bischoff about how AEW can improve their YouTube game, and you're saying, look, dude, they're leaving money on the table,
A lot.
I think one of the reasons TNA sort of turned around, and this might just be me sort of making this up, but I don't know, man, their YouTube presence got so good in TNA where it was like I'm sitting there watching old pay-per-views on the off day where there's no wrestling or anything. So, and I feel like that really helped turn like the TNA around as well.
Well, thank you, because I was behind that. So I appreciate you fluffing me there.
There you go. And so AEW with their YouTube, I know you've pitched some ideas as far as like, hey, they could be doing like this and this to make their YouTube presence better. Tell me about some of your ideas in that regard.
Yeah, so like with AEW, so look, AEW for good and bad, it is a hardcore product for I'll use Tony Khan's exact words. He makes wrestling for the wrestling sickos. Okay. I'll leave that for other people to see if that's like Eric Bischoff certainly has very pronounced opinions about that not being how you get a mainstream audience.
Me too.
On television, but what it does, if you've got that hardcore, and I'll just look at this, let's just say it's 600,000 worldwide. Okay, I only need 600,000. It's probably more than that. But for easy math, let's say it's 1 million worldwide.
Yeah.
Who are AEW sickos.
Yeah.
Their YouTube channel should be tailored to them exactly. They should have a membership on YouTube, and they could charge $20. I reckon they could probably charge $30
easily a
month. And you give them access. You have a camera going backstage because hey, that's how we saw the CM Punk, non fight with Jungle Jack Perry.
Jesus, what an embarrassment that was.
Just leave that. I would, get their own mojos. One of the things I loved, and the audience we had and the culture we had on TNA is we're a club. We're over here having fun every Thursday, watching wrestling together. We're all wrestling nutcases, Whenever I'm blanking on his name. What's the Frankenstein character?
PCO.
Yep. So PCO, obviously, he was one of the Mounties back in the day.
Yep.
You know, so in the chat is like, you know, as Impact Wrestling, I'll go, I think I was arrested in Montreal by someone who looked just like him about 20 years ago. And everyone in the chat's like falling over because they all get the reference because it's an insider of an inside of an inside reference. Whenever there was a chop, you know, we had a woo emoji and like it would just be spammed. It was a way to say, hey, you might not have a best friend who will come over every Thursday, watch TNA, but we're here for you on YouTube. We're all here. We're all the one of the proudest things I ever achieved is the first 10 minutes of the show on YouTube when we're watching it on the Ultimate Insiders was people saying, "Hey Phil, hey Ant, hey Dave, hey Tina." You know, they were like friends that they're like, it was just like a relationship, and it was so cool. Of course, Ariel Sherner couldn't wait to get, now he's in charge of it, couldn't wait to cancel all that because so, you know, well done. It just like literally take your hardest of the hardcore fans, the people who supported it, even when TNA was pretty dross during the pandemic, early pandemic, when they didn't know what they were doing, how they're going to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
You take that something away from them that they've been enjoying for years. I mean, tremendous. Yeah. But yeah, there's no reason that AEW couldn't do that times 1,000.
I know.
But I was weird. I was just, what mentioned names, I was just on a call with a guy who used to run AEW's social media. And he said that what happened was they do the top 5 moments of Dynamite. It's like people would bitch at him that they weren't number one.
The wrestlers would.
The wrestlers would come up to him and say, "Hey, I saw the you did your top 5. You had me at number 2. I should have been number 1. I was the biggest moment."
Oh my God!
Yeah,
dude.
I was like,
cannot believe that.
I mean, the correct answer there is get over yourself.
Holy!
I do what's right for YouTube, and you were number 1 last week. You were number 1 next week. You're number 1 3 weeks ago. I mean, you can't do your best work under those circumstances, and that's a failure of management. That the talent shouldn't be going and essentially throwing their weight around with rank and file members of the staff. That should not be allowed to happen.
Could you imagine one of those WWE playlists like CM Punk's greatest moments, and then Punk goes, "Hey, Paul, I'm actually this should be number 1." Even a guy that level, that's just such like weird. From what I've heard, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm getting told all this, but from what I've heard, the backstage of AEW is like kind of, it's a weirder culture where it's like a lot of people who just think that don't stink ultimately, and I don't want to just blanket put that on everyone, but you're just telling me that's another story to add to my list of like, are you serious? You know?
Yeah. So, I was talking about with the Good Brothers once. I was they're so awesome. So I was talking about it with Gallows once, and I was like, why is it like that? Because he was describing, not with AEW. I mean, I think he had like pretty positive experiences there, but he was talking about other locker rooms. I was like, that's so weird. I was like, that's just not, because I just come from the UFC. I was like, I've just been with the UFC for 12, 13 years. It's nothing like that. He goes, yeah. He goes, so the UFC, if you talk, you can go, all right, we'll come and spar then. All right, then let's fight. He goes, here, it's not that. It's a work. So no, everyone thinks they're the toughest guy. Everyone thinks they're the biggest star. Yeah. And there's no real way of saying you're not. You know? Yeah. I was like, that's when you have to get into like, well, I draw heat. Well, does he really draw? Then you're whispering like, yeah, he's only pulling reins because this. Or you've got the non-stop whispering campaign. But yeah, I mean, look at what Cody Rhodes did. And Cody Rhodes is like the hottest thing in the world right now. And the whispering campaign against someone that talented who was so obviously just a license to print money.
Oh my God.
And AEW had him in the, bored the will to live out of him in the mid-card,
Exactly. When a guy like Cody jumped off the ship, like he saw the writing on the wall way, way, way ahead of everybody else. And yeah, I mean, geez, and then you look now too, they got Ethan Page in NXT. They took him and he's brilliant on the mic, and he's their champion in NXT. And it's like, dude, you guys fumbled. These are your guys, and you fumbled them, and Ethan Page,
you'd hope that an executive at Time Warner would have a conversation like, hey, you want this money and stuff, but I'm looking at WWE and I'm looking at CM Punk. I'm looking at Cody Rhodes. I'm looking at their women's division. we give you this money. How are you going to keep talent? It just looks like you don't. You hope that's the kind of questions they're asking.
Yeah, but who knows if they actually are.